Have you ever wondered how creativity can pull us out of the darkest moments of life? Today's guest, Randi-Lee, has done just that. A passionate mental health advocate, accomplished author, and former kickboxing champion. She's here to share her incredible story from coping with depression to thriving as a creative force. In today's episode, we'll uncover the stories behind her powerful poetry, her approach to healing through words, and how she's inspiring others to find hope. Stay around for an episode filled with passion, purpose, and practical wisdom for readers and writers alike. Don't go away. We'll be right back with the Writer's Corner live show.
Imagine a world where the lines of reality blur with the fantastical. Embark on journeys from humble beginnings to the pinnacles of literary greatness. On the Writer's Corner, we delve into the lives of unique wordsmiths, known for their compelling storytelling. They are artisans who craft fantastical realms, etched in our memory long after the final page is turned. Every tale begins with a single word, a single idea. Authors create sensations that keep you on the edge of your seat. Witness how they transform setbacks into stepping stones. Use refusals to spark growth and turn rejections into catalysts for new inspiration. Witness the diversity in writing as it gives birth to a vast array of genres, from drama to mystery to children's stories, fantasy, and reality. Join us as we uncover sources of inspiration and the magic that defines the author's craft. Find out how authors breathe life into their characters and meticulously craft narratives and plots that captivate readers. Get a sneak peek into upcoming works, and join us as we celebrate literary greatness, only on the Writer's Corner. We don't just celebrate best-selling Amazon and New York Times authors, but also indie authors. Join us on the journey from the birth of a tale to the creation of a masterpiece, only on the Writer's Corner live show. Stay tuned.
If you're just joining us, then welcome to the Writer's Corner live show. And if you're not yet following us on social media, please be sure to do so, and that's where you'll get notified the next time we go live. I'm Bridgetti Limbanda from Cape Town in South Africa. And unfortunately, my co-host, Mary Elizabeth Jackson, is not able to join us on the show today because she's not feeling well. She's down with the bug. We wish her well and hope that she'll feel so much better soon. So today's show on the Writer's Corner live show, we're talking to Randi-Lee Boslaw. And this live stream is brought to you by Creative Edge, StreamYard, and Be Live Media. Now, a warm welcome, regardless of which platform you're watching us on. We'd love for you to say hello if you can, or leave us a comment or a question. That'll be amazing. Now, if you've not yet met our amazing guest, Randi-Lee Boslaw, she is a Canadian mental health advocate, an award-winning kickboxing champion, an author, and a YouTuber. She tells us that after starting her writing journey at the age of 14 as a coping strategy for depression, she discovered a lifelong passion for helping others. Randi-Lee's work inspires readers to embrace their vulnerability and healing, as seen in her amazing poetry collection, and we'll talk a bit about that today. Thoughts of a Warrior is the book that we will focus on, a deeply personal testament to overcoming trauma and reclaiming joy. So let me welcome Randi-Lee on the show. Randy, welcome to the show. So glad to have you back again. You're not new to the show, but it's always great to have you, and I hope you're doing well.
I am, and I'm so excited to be back. It's so unfortunate that Mary Elizabeth could not join us, but that's okay. We'll have fun, and she can just watch us, I'm sure.
I'm sure that she's watching us in the background. I'm going to jump right in because it's always, the 30 minutes goes by so super quickly. And so I'm going to start off with Thoughts of a Warrior, which is the book we're focusing on. What inspired you to write Thoughts of a Warrior, and how does the poetry in the book differ from your first poetry collection?
So I was just kind of going through life as always. And it was actually something that my mom said to me. She said something about my body image, not in a mean way or to be mean. She just doesn't have the same language that I would like her to use. So she knows that I've been trying to lose a little bit of weight, and the one day I'm on the scale, I'm checking, things are going well, and she goes, and then later it was like Saturday night or something, we ordered pizza as per usual, and she's like, well, you're never gonna lose the weight you want if you keep eating like that. Okay, but I'm not trying to like drop a whole bunch.
Something only mothers can do, right?
Right? Like, I'm just trying to make healthier choices most of the time. I'm not giving up everything. I've been there, done that. Leads to problems. So when she said that, it really got to me, and so I wrote down my feelings in a poem, and I'm like, I haven't written poems in a while. I should write some more. And just over the next couple weeks, more things would happen, and I write some poem. I'm like, I think this is forming into a book. And then as I'm going, the poems that I'm writing are much more uplifting because I'm not in that same dark place as way back when I first wrote my first poetry book, Thoughts of a Wanderer. And so I'm like, this is different because this is when you've come out of it. Like, yeah, there's a up and down in life, and some of the poems are like, oh, bad again, but it's showing that it's not always dark. And that's the biggest difference between the two.
Wow, that is amazing. And I love how this started. It was coincidental you ended up writing this book. And so I want to ask a little bit more about how your mental health journey has shaped your creative process and your approach to writing. Can you talk a little bit to that?
For sure. So that's a really big question, actually. So first I will say that it shapes it by once I finally realized that it's okay to have mental illness, that it's okay to talk about it, that's when it really started flowing out, when I'm like, it's okay to talk about these things. I wonder if other people realize that it's okay. And that's when I was like, hey, I need to start sharing my story more so that other people don't feel alone, because that just makes you feel worse. You're already dealing with depression or anxiety, and then you're alone too, right? Like it just doesn't work. So that's probably the biggest thing that really pushed. And I would say the other thing that popped into my head when you said that was that because I've talked to a lot of different writers on my show, and one of the things that come up is, well, I write every day. I try to hit X amount of words every day. I'm not saying all writers do that, but there's a good chunk that do. And I go, I write when I'm feeling inspired. And that has to do with knowing myself and knowing that if I'm in a depressed mood or I'm not quite feeling like myself, anything I write is going to be garbage anyways. I'm just going to have to redo it. So understanding myself more has really led me to have a better creative output than just forcing it.
That totally makes sense. Can you talk a little bit about how your poetry became a tool for healing through the tough time?
Yes. So writing and journaling is one of the top used coping strategies. There's been research proving that writing it out, getting your ideas from your brain onto paper, it is very therapeutic and helpful. I tried journaling and I was like, it just didn't grab me. But when I write it in a poem format, there's just something refreshing about that, where I feel like it's almost bringing it out, but bringing it out in a more creative fashion, but almost sing-songy. because all my poetry rhymes. I love poetry that rhymes. So it gives me that sing-songy good feeling that music gives you at the same time as getting the emotions out in a way that maybe not everyone understands, because to me, journaling, I'm just putting my emotions down, where sometimes you don't have the words. It's more of an imagery thing, and poetry best fits imagery.
Totally makes sense. And just following up on what you said, the book pairs poetry with nature photography.
Yes.
How does that visual element enhance the experience for the reader?
Yes. Oh, that's a really good question. So nature, again, is a great coping strategy on its own. We don't always have the opportunities we want to go and see certain things. And I just thought that it gave it, again, that lightheartedness that it needed to be different from the first book. And so each poem, I tried to pair it with a picture that embraced what the poem was about. So there's a ton of pictures of the sky in different, sunsets or the moon, or a lot of that. The sky really spoke to me as I was writing this book. But then there's also pictures of animals. So the poem actually that I was talking about at the beginning, that I wrote after my mom had inadvertently hurt my feelings, I paired it with a picture of a bear eating, because it just showed it so well. Because the poem is about body image. It's a picture of a bear, which is always, big. Bears are big and adorable. And he's eating. So it paired so perfectly. So there's a lot of that going on as well, that sometimes a reader might not know why I chose a certain picture to go with it, but there's always some kind of reasoning behind why I chose certain pictures. Because even as I was going through it, I was like, I had the set pictures that I wanted to include. And then I'd go, okay, this one goes with this. Then 3 poems down, I'm like, oh no, it matches this one so much better. And I'd go back and I'd move it. So I really did put a lot of thought into which pictures went with which poem.
That's amazing. Oh my goodness. I imagine that makes the whole process so much more fun. And it almost takes away the negative feelings you may have had about the experience.
Yes.
Looking at these pictures and then making you smile.
Yes, definitely.
I can always visualize you sitting there looking at these pictures and not focusing on what hurt you, but how these pictures brought you joy as you were writing.
Yeah.
So talking about writing and something that's so deeply personal, were there any challenges that you had to overcome writing about something that's so deeply personal and emotional? Because sometimes when something hurts us, you want to hold it close to your chest.
Yes.
How did you, it's like birthing a baby. There's, every book is like birthing a baby.
Yeah.
How did you let go?
So this book was not that hard to do it with, only because I've already released other books about my life with much more emotional hardships, I would say. Because this one was so lighthearted, it was easier. Whereas even Thoughts of a Wanderer, the first book of poetry, was all depression, and actually for the very first time admitting to the world that I had depression. And then when I wrote, and we talked about this book last time I was on, Goodbye Too Soon, that was about my brother's death by drug overdose. And that one was, again, so much more difficult to write, because not only was I bearing my soul of my grief and my guilt over should I have done something different, but again, I'm admitting something to the world that I had not admitted before, that addiction runs in my family. And so this book being so lighthearted, I was like, you know what, this needs to be out in the world. There's no hardship. The hardest part was sometimes I'd write a line, and because I love things to be rhyming, I was like, this word doesn't work because the next line it's not working, and I'd have to kind of fiddle with that. But emotionally, it was, I was so wanting to get this book out to make a difference, because the last couple have been so hard.
I want to switch a little bit to the journey of being an author. Now, a lot of people, especially, well, new authors may think that you write the book and that's the hardest part. But if you've been there, been there, done that, you realize writing the book is the easy part. Getting it into the hands of people to read is the more challenging and difficult part, because it doesn't just fly off the shelf by itself. There's a lot of moving pieces involved. Now, you are a YouTuber. How do you use video content to expand your reach and connect with your audience?
Um, I would love to say I do it really well. I definitely don't utilize it as much as I could. But that's just more of a time commitment thing in my life. I just don't have as much time to devote to it as I'd like to be able to piece things together and use it. But really connecting with the audience. So because I write about mental health, it made sense that my show was going to be about mental health. So, I mean, as the host, I don't share a lot about my story, but I always like to have it as a conversation. So I've definitely shared bits and pieces. And even the other authors that I meet on the show, when they're sharing their story and then I share my bits and pieces, it's like, I would like to read your book too. Just, I didn't know that you were like, some of them don't even realize I'm an author, or they think I'm just the host. So it's kind of interesting when I get to meet those other people, and I do share that. So sharing my personality, I think, is what really drives people to want to read my books, because once you kind of know a person's personality, you're like, what is more of their story? How are they? I get this a lot. How are you so happy all the time when you say you have depression or you've been through this? And I'm like, you know what? Read some books. It'll tell you the whole story. But I think that's the biggest thing, is using the platform to show your personality. Because let's be real. There are thousands, millions, billions of books out there. What makes mine better than anyone else's? Simply, it's because it's my story and not someone else's.
You kind of nailed it there, because I often speak to authors, especially new authors, and they say, I'm writing this book, and I will start my marketing or my journey, and I'll start getting into social media when my book is published. And I'm like, no, stop the bus. Big mistake. It's not about, you can't go online and go sell. It's about you. Allow people to get to know who you are as a person. That'll intrigue them and it's an interest in you because they got to know you. And so that's why they'll read the book. That's why your mother and your grandfather and your uncle and your aunt from every corner of the earth will buy your books first, because they know you. But
yeah,
it's kind of the
they
same
tell
thing.
People.
Yeah, so it's kind of the same thing. Allow people to get to know you before you publish your book. So by the time the book arrives, they want to read it because they know you as a good person or a nice person, so build that relationship with people. I want to ask you a little bit of a curveball question here. Um, what parallels would you draw between the discipline it requires to do kickboxing and to persevere as an author? Because
that's a really good one.
To become a good author.
Yes. So the very first thing that popped into my head was getting punched in the face is like getting a bad book review. Especially if you poured your heart and soul into this book, and then all of a sudden somebody picks it up and they're like, oh, well, this is crap. It's like getting punched in the face. It really is. But the thing to remember is not everyone is going to be your audience. Do you like every single book or movie that you've ever read or watched? Heck no. Do other people like it? Yes. So that one bad review might just be one bad review. The book didn't match the person when they thought it would. So they read it, they didn't like it. Oh, well, it's like when you're in a match and you lost the first round, but there's 2 more rounds to go. So you got to just breathe. Next round will be better. I'll find a different audience. I'll find where my people are at. I'll find the strength to keep going. And then you go into the next round and you find the right people.
Absolutely. You've got to kind of take a step back from where it comes from and try and understand that that person may be in a moment or a season where they don't get it. And that's okay. That's okay. Because chances are that 2 years, 5 years from now, something's going to change and somebody's going to recommend your book to that person and they're going to love it.
It's funny how that works.
Yeah. So don't take it so personally. Randy, how do you balance writing and advocating for mental health with your roles as a mom and a grandmother?
Well, luckily my writing and advocacy kind of go together, so that really works well. Most of my books are about mental illness in some capacity. Even my kids' books have usually some kind of value to a mental health perspective. So that's really helpful because no matter who I'm talking to about whatever book, there's an underlying mental health, mental illness kind of capacity to it. Then, of course, I have my show that goes every Wednesday morning. So that is out there. And then because I kind of set myself up that way, it gives me the time to focus on the mom stuff and the grandma stuff, which is so much fun. And especially, my kid is 18 now. My youngest is 18. So is loosen the reins a little bit. I don't have to be as mom all the time. So I am able to focus more on other things. And the nice thing is that, so my youngest, the one that's 18, she's the one that has autism and depression and all those other things that I have also written about. I can have these conversations with her as well. And sometimes I get her feedback. I'm still waiting for her to come on the show. Fingers crossed. But I'll get her feedback sometimes. I'll say, hey, I just heard about this. What do you think? And we'll have a whole conversation about it. So it's really nice that everything sort of meshes all together for me.
That's awesome. Can you hold up your book? Because I want to talk about the cover for a bit.
Yes.
Tell me about the cover.
So the cover, actually, let's expand the whole thing so you can see the full cover. That's all one picture. So we're driving on a road. And it's really important to show the first book. So this picture I painted of the road going to tornadoes and clouds and darkness. And so this one being, again, driving on a road, but we're starting to see light in our life. Okay, starting to see the colors. The green starts to come through. The blue starts to come through. We still got a little bit of gray because, again, life has ups and downs. But it really is from the first to the second, it is a progression just like in life. As you're starting to deal with your mental illness and getting to a better place, we're starting to see colors in life and not always darkness. So that's what I was going for with the cover. Very, a lot of thought behind that.
I really, really like that. Now, a question I love to ask authors is, how did you manage to translate what you had in your head, the vision you had in your head for the cover, to the illustrator? Because that is just myself. A crazy process.
Yeah, I actually did the cover myself. So I really love.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I really love getting into like the graphic design stuff. I am definitely not a graphic designer, but I've done a lot of my own covers and I really like it. I mean, I definitely had some back and forth with Mickey from Creative Edge. A couple times he's like, this is a little bit too photoshopped. I'm like, okay, back to the drawing board a little bit. Let's fiddle. I said, I know exactly what I want. And I had to, it has nature in the picture. It needed nature on the front. And I wanted that matching of the first book to the second book. So it was a little bit of back and forth. And even the words on the final copy are a little bit different than these ones. But the picture really came through with those contrasts of the gray and the light with the road.
Fantastic. You mentioned Mickey just now. Tell me a little bit about working with someone like Mickey as opposed to going it on your own.
Yeah, so I actually have both experiences because for my first handful of books, I was on my own. And it took a lot more time in that marketing phase. I had to find all my own podcasts to go on. I had to do all my own like send outs for things. So it was very much more time consuming. Whereas when you're working with, oh, there's my cat. When you're working with a publicist like Mickey, he does the legwork. So he got me on your show, right? He already has these connections with other people. And then, like I said, when I sent him my book cover, he's like, because I've been in this industry for so long, here's a couple of tips on feedback that I would really like you to consider. And I'm like, okay. So let's figure this out. I'm like, I still have this certain vision, which we're not changing, but we can tweak it. So it really is helpful that way because he's been in the industry for so long and you have that. The other nice thing is by the time I signed up with him to be one of his clients, I had worked with him for guests on my show. So I knew the quality of people that he worked with already because all of his guests were always top notch in their interviews. So knowing that he worked with quality people, I was like, okay, I think you know what you're doing.
Yeah, that is amazing. I always use the analogy of having a publicist is like arriving in a courtroom with a lawyer in your corner versus not having one.
Yes, I like that.
Big difference. People just, your respect as an author just goes up a notch when you're working with a publicist and people take you more seriously. And it definitely opens up a lot more doors for you. So if you're a new author and you're watching the show, please connect with someone like Mickey Mickelson because, he really does a great job. And like everything else out there, I always tell people, don't just grab a doctor from the yellow pages. And same thing, you do not grab a publicist from the yellow pages.
Right, exactly. And that's why I had worked with him. Yeah, I'd worked with him for other things. And then I had a meeting with him more specifically about being a publicist. I'm like, okay, let's try this. And now it's been a while now.
Wow. So absolutely do go and check out Mickey Mickelson. He does have a great, the authors that he has, that he works with are absolutely phenomenal. And that's how we met.
Yes, exactly. And that's how I met Mary Elizabeth as well.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my goodness. Randi-Lee, thank you so much. It was amazing. I'm going to ask you to just hold up your book cover again because it's so beautiful. And I want to say thank you to our amazing authors, audience who's joined us today. And if Randi-Lee's story resonated with you, please go grab a copy of Thoughts of a Warrior. It is available on Amazon. And so until next time, keep reading, stay inspired, and remember, every great story starts with a dream. Thank you for joining us on the Writer's Corner live show. 30 minutes of insightful author conversations with some of the biggest names in the industry, including award-winning authors and international indie sensations. Join us on the next episode of the Writer's Corner live show.